Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for what's, I think, basically becoming a tradition at this point, where we take a casual look back at the year and all the shenanigans that we got up to and get kind of preview or hopefully talk a bit about what to achieve in the upcoming year. Now, if at any point my rambling gets too much or you just don't care about what I'm talking about, I'll hopefully be able to put some chapters in the description so you can jump ahead and get to a topic that does interest you. And normally I try to do these at the end of the year, but this year was actually quite chaotic at the end of the year, which is actually a good way for us to transition into, doing a little bit of a recap. So why don't we get to it? Honestly, I think the best way to start this thing is to do an update of last year's update, which is that my computer is still kicking. I hesitate to say that because I do not want to jinx it at all, but yes, thankfully, my fears of the computer blowing up did not come true. So, you know what? +1 for that. +1, cannot complain at all. This thing is a beast, it's a trooper, and I truly do hope it can continue to keep kicking as we go on this year. Fingers crossed, everybody, please. Just lend me your power like Goku. But truly, the way that I wanted to start this recap off was to give you a bit of a little bit of a behind the scenes to something that I wanted to do in 2024, but I purposely did not mention because I did not want to, hold myself to a standard. But fun fact, my goal for 2024 was to focus heavily on trying to create a new game every single week. And I feel like I technically achieved that, I mean, at the end of the year, things got a little shaky and I technically went back to a lot of concepts, but I would argue that those concepts were constantly evolving to new ideas featuring new concepts alongside, things that we were building upon, like the level generation or the whole concept of multiple views, So I like to think that for the most part, I was able to achieve that. And I actually think that says quite a bit about, GameMaker as an engine, that I can pretty much prototype a new project every single week and actually build something passable, I mean, the majority of my stuff is usually held together with duct tape and chewing gum, but it works. It works. So yeah, as much as it was a creative nightmare and mentally exhausting, it was honestly cool to see that I was able to challenge myself to do something extreme, because it's pretty difficult. I have a laundry list of ideas that I'm constantly adding to and constantly putting for the channel. But still, to commit to that and execute it every single week, I think that deserves some props. I don't know, maybe I'm just tooting my own horn here, but if there's one thing that I can be proud of in 2024, it was that. And honestly, I don't know what happened, but maybe some divine piece of code in YouTube's algorithm pitied us this year because we did some of our best numbers, and that is ridiculous for a channel of my size and the content that I make, which is very niche. It's a niche of a niche. I am constantly blown away that there are even as many views that I do get on average on a video, So just to see that, it seems like game dev as a piece of content on YouTube, especially, and even on Twitch, which is pretty cool. It's honestly cool to see this evolving into something more. You're seeing more developers starting to branch out and interact with an audience and a community. And I know that doesn't work for every developer. I'm not saying that this is going to be the future, but it is pretty cool to see it evolve over the years. And with all the positives that we could extract from the year, you also do have to sort of give a nod to the negatives, which is that I did, in fact, try to make a mini ARG this year and failed, but that's okay. Again, you win some, you lose a lot. In my case, it's a lot. I lose a lot, but at least I tried it, I don't know if I ever tried another one. It is a lot of work, and especially nowadays, I do not have that kind of time, but it was nice to at least try it. I need to find the silver linings for my own sanity, I think. And actually, you know what? No, we'll end this recap as a sandwich, as a positive, negative, positive sandwich, because I can say that this year was great for me as an editor because I found so many ways to optimize the videos that you see every week. Like when I first started that picture-in-picture thing that I do currently, man, my computer wept. Like when I first started creating the assets and the way that I set the entire stage up and the way I edited everything together, it took a lot of computer power, and I would have to edit things in parts. So like I would have to edit the little screens that you see, you know, with all the code scrolling by or doing whatever it does in the screen. I would have to edit that on its own and then edit the footage under it afterwards, and then edit in transitions and everything else after that, and just watch it as at like 5 frames per second and just hope that the end result looked good. But thankfully, like I always try to do, I tinker with it. I learned how to better execute things, and thankfully I was able to optimize it to the point now that I can actually edit both screens at the same time and add transitions and all of the good stuff, and my computer isn't trying to burn itself down. Although, again, the age is showing because nowadays my editor is starting to crash a whole lot more, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it is what it is. So yeah, overall I think 2024 was a great step forward. You know, the highs were much better than the lows, I guess is the best way to describe that, or explain it, or summarize it, I don't know. Honestly, at this point, I'm just procrastinating because, as with recording this video in general, I have been procrastinating doing this because I'm not necessarily excited to talk about 2025. Not for any reason of the channel, but of the reality of the situation, because it's a thing. So yeah, because as I mentioned last year, and as I kind of alluded to this year, or at the start of this video I should say, my computer is old. It is like 10 years old at least at this point. I'm pretty sure every part is at least 10 years old. And my concerns are still the same as they were last year. I've pretty much replaced everything at this point. That the next thing that breaks is going to not only cost me a lot, but it pretty much means I have to rebuild the entire PC from scratch, because either the parts are just so outdated that they would not work with modern parts, or they're just bad old parts that it would be a bad idea to put them into a new rig, you know? And again, you know, when I mentioned the editing, the computer is kind of getting slower, a lot more crashes. I think the hardware is just aging. Like my GPU is just, it freaks out when I try to play a 3D game sometimes, and I'm just like, I don't know what's going on anymore. Is this a driver issue? It seems to be driver issues, but I don't know. Things are breaking down, things are getting a little more shaky, and it's honestly getting a little concerning. But again, computer's still working. I'm hoping it stays that way, but it is a major concern. It continues to be a major concern, because if this computer goes, that's it. I can't, if I just, again, as I said last year, if I disappear one day with no message, no nothing, it's probably because my PC broke and I have no way to update y'all. But the second half of why I'm concerned about 2025, at least the end of 2025, and it's honestly probably why I'm sort of dooming here when it comes to where I'm gonna go after 2025. You know, Windows is dropping Windows 10 support. And again, my computer is very old. It does not meet the requirements for Windows 11. And again, if I want to upgrade my computer to be Windows 11 compatible, I pretty much need to build an entirely new PC, which is a tall order and one that I cannot afford to do. And that's sort of been the story for the last 10 years, you know? Again, for anyone who may not know, I do not do this as a job, you know? This is just something I do as a hobby. And I'm very dedicated to this hobby, but it's sort of at the will of the rest of the world, you know? I have to do this in my free time, so I can only record when I have the opportunity, and I can only record as long as I have a PC. If it breaks, if it dies, that's kind of the end of it, until I can afford to build another one, which, you know, I'm lucky to be able to buy a couple of indie games at during a Steam sale. That's pretty much me splurging these days. So that does beg the question as to where do we go with this channel at the end of 2025? And to be honest, I don't know. I don't have a definitive answer. I have ideas. Like, what I do know is if I continue to do the channel after 2025, that means I'm sort of at a risk. And I'm not necessarily new to that. I was a very late adopter to Windows 10, mostly because every time I upgrade Windows, at least one piece of my hardware breaks and just does not work with the new version of Windows. And that's exactly what happened, which is why I postponed it as long as possible. The reality is that I could stick with Windows 10 for as long as possible, but it is again very restrictive in that sense because I did not use this PC when it was on Windows 7 in any risky form, if you will, you know? Like, I was very careful with where I went, what I downloaded, etc, etc. And so if I continue to do this, then my existence will be very limited, less exploration, less research, less experimentation and opportunities. And I know what some people are probably going to say, why don't I switch to Linux? I don't have the time to learn Linux. And more importantly, I don't think that a lot of the things that I use hardware-wise, maybe even software-wise, have Linux support. So to summarize, yeah, aging hardware, Microsoft ending support for Windows 10 puts me in a weird situation where I could continue, but it'll be limited, or I unfortunately just stop doing content at all, which is why I have been trying to push Patreon more over the last year or so. I don't try to pressure people into it because, again, as someone who is not financially, I don't know, not doing well financially anyway, but I understand, you know, we're all out here, we're all struggling and times are tough. So that's why that's why I try to do the main push once and that's it in every video. Just put it out there in the universe, you know, but I don't try to make a big thing about it, and you know, I try to still do good by those who do support me on Patreon, which, if you are curious, no, despite running it for what, a year plus now, it has not made much at all. So, and something I'll also mention here is something that I've noticed, especially at the end of the year. I'm starting to get more ambitious about my projects, you know? I realize that I can't do more because I need to make a video every week. And so all of my projects need to be of a certain size, need to be of a certain scope, or else I need to make long video series, you know, with different parts, like as I used to do, which I would be fine with, but YouTube, you know, YouTube does not like that. Again, as I mentioned sort of in the recap, I think the reason that YouTube even picked up a lot of what we did this year was because a lot of it was just sort of single focused projects, you know. They weren't projects that span like 9 parts where you need to watch all 9 parts to get caught up. And so I am thinking about, you know, if I do take the route of continuing to make videos post 2025, you know, maybe I don't do a video every week, but maybe a video every 2 weeks, or maybe a video every month. But regardless, like I said at the start, it's really all up in the air. I don't know how this year's gonna go. Maybe we'll see some sort of huge spark in interest in game development videos, and I'll be able to afford a new PC by the end of the year. If not, then we'll come back to it at that point and we'll figure it out then. But I can promise you that this year will be no different. The immediate plan for 2025 is just to continue making stuff, you know, have fun. Don't think about what's gonna happen until we gotta deal with it. And just, even if this is last year, we're gonna have fun with it, and we're not gonna do about it, you know? As long as this PC keeps kicking and y'all still watch, I'm still gonna make the content. I always absolutely appreciate your guys' support. It's amazing, and I hope to be able to continue entertaining you guys. But again, we're gonna have to wait and see. It's quite an ominous way to end it, but that's the reality of the situation. So anyway, I think I've been rambling long enough. I think that was a pretty solid recap. Hopefully a nice heart-to-heart that's understanding about where we're gonna go in 2025. And yeah, hopefully you guys are ready for the ride, because I'm not gonna spoil anything because I have no idea when I'm actually gonna post this video. But yeah, there are a lot of fun ideas coming. Hope you guys are as excited as I am. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for the last year of support. Those of you who have supported me for all this time, thank you so much for sticking around. I greatly appreciate it. And here's to another year of fun, weird game dev content, right? So yeah, if you're still here, thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.